Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jen Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. This week, we're talking about being ticklish. So, Gary, not to put you on the spot. Are you ticklish? Right. I would say I'm not super ticklish, but like every now and then, right? So fundamentally, our response to being tickled is a function of our sensory nerves. So actually, the sensation of itch is very similar physiologically to being ticklish. And so really in the research, they call it two different forms of tickling. Like they have different names. So there's one for like the lighter itch type of things. So think like feather on your skin or a bug lands on you. And then the other is the more like aggressive thing that we typically think of with like tickling a baby, or this wasn't a book when I was a kid, but I remember like with my friends' kids and my nephew, there's a book called The Tickle Monster.
Sure.
And it comes with a glove. So that's like the more aggressive tickling. So essentially, it's really about nerves. Most common spots are the soles of the feet, neck, armpits, rib cage, and waist, because these are the areas with like a higher density of sensory nerves. Then some neuroscience research notes that there's an element of surprise that's critical for our reaction. So this is potentially one reason why most people can't tickle themselves, right? So the same areas of the brain that perceive tickles, which is like, so the cerebellum is involved and the somatosensory cortex. So that part of the brain predicts when you're going to be tickling, if you're tickling yourself. So the element of surprise can't exist, right?
Okay.
Now, here's your fun fact of the day. You ready? This is the caveat to you can't tickle yourself. Research shows that those with schizophrenia or dissociative tendencies may be able to tickle themselves because there is a surprise.
Interesting.
Right? I don't know this. I wonder if that's part of like early diagnostic testing. I don't know if it is. I'm making things up, but interesting, right? So why are some people ticklish and other people not? People actually have different nerve density. So those with less density will be less ticklish. And so genetics essentially plays a factor in being ticklish. And then conditions like neuropathy can then impact being ticklish, right? This is part of why maybe you've been to the doctor and they try to like tickle the bottom of your foot, right? They're testing like the nerves. Did you ever have this?
No.
Okay. So when I was a kid, the doctors were concerned about the curvature of my spine. And so the doctor would always like take their pen and like run it along the bottom of my foot to see if there was any like nerve issue. Well, one time he thought his pen was open. So he like, hit the top of it to close it before doing that, but it wasn't open. And then he drew on the bottom of my foot. But I digress.
It's another story for another day.
Right. So neuropathy can impact some people versus others. And then it's also not uncommon for your level of ticklishness to be different at different times. So some research shows that the intensity of our reaction is connected to our mood, right? Which, I mean, this makes sense. We don't need the research to tell us this, right? Like if you're upset, angry, anxious, we're not going to feel like laughing when we're tickled, right? Like kind of duh.
Well, I think that goes to the surprise factor also.
Potentially, yeah. And then the other thing is like, this wasn't in the research, but I also think being tickled or laughing when you're tickled is a connection to a feeling of safety. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. So the reaction to being tickled is twofold, right? We have laughter and self-protection. We like pull away, we like hide or try to cover the area that somebody's trying to tickle, right? So the laughter piece is really important when it comes to health, right? So you can go back to our nutrition nugget on laughter. But the piece here with being ticklish is that there's a piece to these instinctual reactions to being tickled that has an evolutionary component, or it plays an evolutionary role. So the laughter, it creates bonds, right? So we think parent to child. There were some researchers that believe that it's part of developing a humor in the baby or a sense of humor in the child. Smiling and laughing like is mirrored from what we see with the other person, and then potentially like it teaches them what's funny. The other evolutionary thing, and this is why I think safety plays a role, is because it's that protection piece. Like when we contort our body to block the area, right? We're like retreating. It's self-protection. It's teaching or practicing a defense mechanism. So similar to this, with the fact that most of us can't tickle ourselves, right? Being tickled also reinforces this sense of self and our ability to distinguish between our own actions and those of others. And the part of the brain that's activated in this is the hypothalamus, which plays a big role in emotions. So again, going back to that connection piece, but it's also connected to our fight or flight. So there's these evolutionary pieces that being ticklish and parents tickling young kids or their babies or whatever, like really serves a function, even though maybe we didn't realize it, you know? And then furthering the evolutionary element, humans aren't the only species that are ticklish. So they see this in orangutans and gorillas, mice and squirrels also. Interesting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
All right, so the last thing that if you're feeling like tickling somebody, know your audience, read the room, right? As they say, I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is like a very Gen Z thing, but like touching someone needs to be invited, right? Like body autonomy, all the things. You know, if someone reads it as invasive, it's not going to create the laughter and connection that you might be looking for. So with all of that, Gary, what do you think? Any thoughts on being ticklish?
I am not the lawyer who advised Jen to advise you to ask your victim if it's okay to tickle them first.
That's not, you don't necessarily have to ask them.
What you said makes a lot of sense, because I think if you've ever been tickled or in an annoying, someone trying to annoy you, you could sometimes keep a straight face and just kind of, now that there's no surprise factor, now that you know where it is, where it's coming from, the mood you're in, you can kind of control your laughter, or you can just let go and have fun and laugh even harder.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, I don't think this information on being ticklish is really going to change anybody's life, but I think it's fun facts and things to help us sort of just better understand how the body works and recognize that like everything is connected,
Mm-hmm.
All right, Gary, we did it.
Okay.
As always, everybody, I'm your host, Jen Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jen Trepeck, JenNTrepeck. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Gary, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And of course, if you are not already, join our membership by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipes for the chimichurri chicken salad and the burger in a bowl using some great Costco finds, or of course, things that you could find at your grocery store too. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform, share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it and you are worth it. Happy healthy.